Well, welcome, Stephen.
Happy
I'm
to be
so
here.
glad to have you here.
I am very happy to be here. Always happy to help out, Julie, and always happy to talk theater. As you know, you and I have done it many a time.
Yes, this is Let's Talk Theater. And what we're doing with this new segment that I'm starting is we're not just going to be talking about what we're doing. We're just going to get into the heart of a whole bunch of stuff,
All right.
that have to do with theater, period.
Mm.
So what I would like to do is I want to start off with you telling the audience when you first decided that I want to be in theater, and if you had some obstacles in the very beginning, what were they, and how did you overcome those so that you could do what you wanted to do?
I'll do the early stuff, and then I'll jump to my Columbus career, my adult career, in theater. So I remember being on stage in fourth grade and playing like this little weasel. I was the kind of the villain of the piece, uh, who was the Weasley bad guy, and I got all kinds of laughs. So that was a lot of fun. That's like fourth grade. And then everyone goes through that awkward phase in junior high and everything. And then high school, I had a really good. He wasn't my teacher, but he was a drama teacher, and he knew me and encouraged me to audition. And so I ended up being in two school plays and three of the musicals, and that was fun. And then I did college, and then I did law school. So I took about 15 years off between high school, and then I moved to Columbus, graduated law school, passed the bar, and then I was like, well, what am I going to do with my evenings? And I was like, I always want to get back into acting. And my first few years out of college, actually, there was a window there, but I worked nights and stuff, so it just wasn't going to happen. Um, but it was something I always want to do. As kids, me and my brother would, and so I'll show my age. It's the mid '70s, but we would write we would either write Saturday Night Live sketches or recreate the sketches we saw the night before for my parents. And my parents were great. They would sit there and watch. And my dad was a performer, actually. He was a musical performer. He did some stuff in the Dayton theater area. I know he played the riverboat captain. I think it was in Steamboat. I think that he sang Old Man River. That's all I know. I think that's what he did. But so he did some performing, and my mom used to always talk about that. So I definitely had a lot of support from the family on that end. And then, like I said, I kind of got back into it later. And then all of a sudden, I was like, man, I really love this. And then, how hard it is to get friends out. But my family was actually my mom and my dad were really good, even in my adult phase, if you will. My mom and dad would come from Dayton to see it. And I know the first time I directed a show at MadLab, my mom made a big deal to come opening night and brought me flowers, which was really cool. So I was always very encouraged. And to jump back to high school when I really started doing it there, it was something I wanted to do. But I also played football my senior year, so I was trying to do a little bit of everything. Get that resume to look good. I was a much better actor, and we had a much better. Our plays were better than our football team, so I can say that. But I really love. Obviously, I enjoy doing it, and the other thing is when you do theater, if you're a guy, you're looking to meet girls too. So that was always fun too. So
Oh,
uh,
Stephen, that's the first time I have ever heard a man say that they use theater to meet girls.
oh
But I
yeah,
guess you could do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and and I definitely, there were definitely girls I immediately had crushes on and that kind of stuff. And I don't think I got to date any of them in high school or whatever, but obviously, for better or worse, I've dated a few women in the Columbus theater community. And now I'm married to one, obviously, Colleen Dunn. But so yeah, family sport, it was easy. And you talk about being a man and getting into it, and one of the things I was told here, and one of the things it definitely helped me, and I want to believe that's changing, is I had a good friend back then when I first started here, and he was like, "Are you a guy? Can you speak English and in complete sentences? You're cast." And and it was kind of true, and I feel like obviously that was 2000,
Mm-hmm.
2001. So it's been 19 years I've been doing theater in Columbus, and I think there's certainly enough theater that if you want to be in a show, you can get in a show. But I feel like the talent level has gone up, and you just can't show up. And I think I want to believe we have more actors staying home, but I think we have more talented people that are interested and we're telling more stories. So I guess there's still a lot more roles out there, but I think the competition's gotten tougher. At least definitely at MadLab, I can say that for sure.
I think that's very interesting that you were able to be this businessman and still have an outlet to be creative, with your theater. Now, I'm wondering, did theater help you in the courtroom? Did we see any Perry Mason or any Matlock stuff going on with you?
So I don't practice regularly. So I did law school. I got out, and then I decided I liked my day job, which is still my current day job. But I still definitely do a lot of legal stuff. And some of it's for the theater and some of it's for people at the theater. But definitely I can say that going into when I have done, whether it's a trial or any kind of time where you have to go into court, definitely an element of theater definitely enters my mind, and an element of improv, being able to kind of roll with it, and whether it's taking on a character or my character's defending my client or whatever, but there's definitely an element of being prepared, knowing what you're doing, knowing your stuff. And like I said, the improv is kind of like, oh, what curveballs am I get thrown here? Which, especially depending on where I am, depending on my level of expertise, there may be a lot of curveballs. So yeah, definitely. And when I was in law school, I definitely we did the mock court, we did the trials or whatever, and I was very theatrical in there to the point that I think I got an A, but my only negative marks were that I was too relaxed when I was sitting at the counselor's table. My co-counsel was like top 10 in the class. I was not. But so yeah, there's definitely an element of that, and like I said, being prepared in that stuff. And actually, the first show I did in Columbus was for a group. I don't think they're still doing shows, but they did it. I did a couple for them actually back then, called the Lawyers Performance Ensemble. So my first audition was with him. My first show was with him. And so I was like, oh, this makes sense. And a lot of those guys were attorneys. So yeah, I'm still practicing. I'm still licensed. I shouldn't say I practice full time, but I am licensed. So
yeah, keep that license.
I got
that license going.
Yeah, it used to be I used to do a lot more domestic relations. These days, I feel like I get more criminal calls. Actually, I take that back. I was getting criminal calls for a while. Now they're more labor law, tenant law, that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't say I'm an expert in any of those, but I'm good enough, and I have sources, to fellow attorneys that I can reach out to. So,
well, Stephen, in our climate that we have right now, that's going on, where do you see? And you mentioned MadLab, and I want to get to talk about that, and also the O.G., the other production company.
Yeah.
Because you're more than actor.
Right.
You are a producer, a director. You write some. You are co-founder of theater companies, and you have been a driving force with theater in regards to producing things. I think you just had your, what was it, 25th one of your theater festivals?
So MadLab's about to start its 25th season. Eventually, once we get through all this COVID stuff. And yeah, and then with OGP, we've done, we started doing a July 3rd and then a Valentine's Day festival. And then we've done, I think we just did our 10th July 3rd festival. And then in February, we'll see what format it is, but we'll be doing our 10th annual version of that. And it's kind of amazing that it's just one of these things you started with, well, MadLab had an open weekend, so let's put some shows on. And now it's kind of turned into a bigger thing, and we just did our socially distanced festival, which we got to do one of your shows, which was awesome.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Me about what it is the core, do you think, that we should be as theater people right now, those of us who not just act but have the ability to control? what's seen and have the ability to bring to light and produce things. You know, you also have the extra thing, privilege of having an actual theater place.
Right.
You know, an actual place where you can do stuff. We have a lot of theater companies. I'm one of them. We have to use vendors.
Yep.
You know, we have the actors, we got all that stuff, but we don't have the building. So what do you just talk about that? How do you see and how do you come, how does MadLab and your OGT, how does all that
Yeah.
fit?
I'll try to do it from, I'll try to put both MadLab and OGP hats on and it's kind of a big picture thing and something, you know, we've been trying to move towards in a bigger sense, period. And like you said, you know, MadLab's a space. So for a long time, it was like, well, we're a space. We got to make sure we make money and that kind of stuff. And we keep the lights on, that kind of stuff. When Jim Azelvander became artistic director, he kind of pushed for, hey, let's not just get more people to see our shows. Let's get more people doing shows here. So we started a late night. Nikki Smith, who was our managing director then, and it's carrying through with Colleen Dunn, who's now our managing director, that let's get more aggressive with, let's get other companies in, let's fill every weekend. Obviously COVID has hurt that, but the idea was, you know, let's get people in because we're still a cheap rent if we rent it. The late nights were free and they will be free when we start doing them again. You know, let's get more improv in here, but let's get, you know, and this is on the OGP side, something I've always wanted to do is tell more stories. And so, you know, and so I was, you know, when I took over late night, Jim was like, can you do this late night thing? I think Jim and Greg McGill were like, can you do this late night thing? I'm like, sure, I'll handle it. And so we started getting some other groups in, and it's one of those things I feel like, again, we've kind of got cut short with the COVID this year because I thought we were really building to it because we were starting to get some real diverse artists. And by diverse, I mean, not just, you know, the way we think about diversity now, which is definitely one of our goals, but just instead of 6 acts a year, we were starting to get 15 and different people and hearing from different people, hearing good things about us. So, you know, we're a space, we want to leave the light, keep the lights on, but we also want to tell stories and do that. So that's been, so I think the approach of MadLab started with, let's get more people in here doing art. And then at that same time, one of Jim's philosophies, and again, Laura Spires, our artistic director now, has kind of carried that through too, is let's also get let's get more diverse on stage. Let's get more people, period. Let's get more talented people. There are more than, you know, the 30 or 40 people that are here, you know, at MadLab, and we know they're out there. And, you know, and so over time, you know, we used to get, you know, maybe 30 or 40 people for roulette auditions. Now we're getting over 100 every year. The first year we were not expecting that, and it was kind of overwhelming. And then the next couple of years, we did a much better job. And I think that comes from people coming to the space, and whether they're coming to see a show, or they're on our social media, or they come and do a show with us, or they have a friend do a show with us and they hear about it. So we started having these pockets of people show up. And a lot of them, and you know, we always say when people show up that we don't know whether it's an audition or just a show, we're like, that's great, because that means not only you're building your audience, obviously, but we also want to build that community. So from a MadLab perspective, we've been moving that direction. Not only, like I said, the diversity angle and getting more people in is obviously a great thing, but we want to tell more stories, and we want to have more people telling their stories, you know, and like, you know, the things you guys are doing, and like James Blackman, you know, with JB3, and there's so many, you know, go to the Theater Roundtable page, you can see all the people telling different stories, but we know all these little groups popping up and doing their one-offs. And then the OGP side, that's my thing there has always been, and that kind of started with, you know, MadLab can only tell so many stories in a year. But I know people that are like, oh, I want to do this thing. And I've always been like, I'll help you with that. Hey, I want to do this thing. I'll put my name on that. I'll help you with the publicity or whatever you want to do. Yeah, I'll recommend people to you, you know, and that's definitely, I think, a role a lot of people in MadLab try to fill. I know Colleen and I are always willing to, oh, you need people? Let me throw out these 3 or 4 names, because they, you know, they're really hungry, but our next show only has 4 people cast in it. And these people need, you know, they just need more seasoning, or I just want to see them on stage more. So OGP kind of started with let's tell more stories. And we kind of grew into an offsite, we do different things, and we're kind of the little sister of MadLab. We do original works, and again, that's a I know you do the original works thing,
Yes.
and that's a key thing too. Is I think we used to derisively say at first, well, nobody, who wants to see name your old play for 100th time? Well, a lot of people do, and guess what? Me too. I like seeing the classics as well.
Yes.
But doing the original works is a lot of fun too. You get to, we developed such great relationships with playwrights, whether local or nationally. Like with our Young Writers program, we have a
Yes. I was just getting ready to bring that up because
yeah, I totally skipped over that. The Young
yeah.
Writers thing.
I wasn't going to let you. I wasn't going to let you skip over our youth.
Yeah. And
no way was I going to let you skip over the youth, because they are such an important part of what you do, what I do. Is to get that voice out there, and it feeds into what you're saying too, as into your go of the stories, and the young writers are stories.
Yeah.
And I also was getting, and I'm glad you brought that up too. One of the things that I've always liked about MadLab is that, and OG, is the originality of the new works. Because I like all the old stuff. I love those classic stuff too. But I also know that was another time and place. I want to see what's happening right now.
That's right.
I want to remember what was going on when I was a kid and during my 30s, and you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And you can't see that if you don't have writers write that. So talk about that piece, about how you have made it one of your missions too, also to encourage young writers to write, and how you help them see their work come to life.
Yeah, it's been a great program, and initially, it's obviously something that, it's like, oh, well, this'll look good, but it's so much fun every year to work on that program. And obviously, as you know now, and I'm glad we got you in as a mentor now, but it's just so much fun, not only to meet the new kids, and then, like every year we seem to have a couple kids come back, and the better writers, and it's good to see them too. And then beyond that, to see the community's embraced it. And, when we do readings, we get to see, I was talking about when we have new actors and we want to see them do more, it's like, hey, come in and do this reading for these young writers. So that part's a lot of fun. And like I said, we've got this network of local mentors who are amazing. And then we've got these national mentors who are nationally produced as well. And so the kids have all this help and support. But, we help take their shows from, some of them are already ready to go. These kids are talented, and some of them need a little help. And to see the growth in the shows that are like, this is good, let's take a chance with this, and then to see where they end up. And so it's exciting. And they get, this year was obviously a little different. I keep saying that, and we all know that, but it's exciting, and it gets a lot of people. We usually have big houses with it too, which is a nice thing. But we also get 10 really good stories every year. And to allude to what you were talking about earlier, I mean, these guys are the ones who are they're the ones who are gonna speak the truth. They're the ones who know what's going on, like you said. And sometimes I'm sure I read scripts from people that aren't teens. I'm no spring chicken anymore, and it's like, I'm not sure I understand this. Or it's like, oh, you know what? I never thought of it from this perspective. And for me, that's a fresh take. And I think for us in general, it's a fresh take, because, we get thousands of submissions for roulette and everything. And, and actually some of them are from teenagers. But, some of these scripts we get from these, the young writers are just, they come in great.
I think it's good that you have young writers that start off and return, and you see the work grow. It's the same thing like with the Black Theater Festival. Our goal was, we wanted original, especially when we first started off, we had a lot of first-time writers. First time they had took a chance out there and wrote a play, and it wasn't all the best and all that, but they took a chance, and it was good enough with some feedback and that they could see it come to life, and then come back the next year, and you see the growth in it. We've had playwrights that have come back And it's not because we're being biased about it. It's because the work is good and the work has improved. And you know, and it's so when you see young people like that, you know, because what are the ages for the young writers?
So for now, we've limited it to high school. There's been talk about, can we expand it to junior high? And then we've talked about, well, maybe we'll have a separate one or something. But for right now, it's high school. We're accepting submissions right now. So if you're in high school or a Central Ohio high schooler, get the MadLab.net. You can get all the information there, and they can get writing. And just to get back to what you said, so this year I think we really started blind copying the scripts. So as you were a mentor and I'm a mentor, we didn't know who did them, and we still had, I think, 2 returning writers this year. So again, that just shows that they learned from last year. And again, we have some good workshops, and we're going to have some really good ones this year, and they're going to be online. But I think that's even better. I think we're going to reach even more the Central Ohio high school kids this year.
You know, you guys have still managed to bring some theater.
So and I feel like I've been maybe busier this summer than I was in a non-COVID summer in some ways. But so MadLab specifically, we realized early on Young Writers wasn't going to be the usual Young Writers, but we wanted to do it, and we wanted these scripts produced. So we decided it would just be a film thing, but we could do it in the space, limited amount of people. We limited the rehearsals that people had in person. And then, we did, we have certain protocols at MadLab for, wiping things down. And when people came, everyone was in a mask, except for when we filmed. So obviously it made it difficult, but we were going to do it. So we ended up, being able to film them in the space, and then, made them available through links. So, we weren't selling, all the tickets. And I think everyone knows, you're just not selling as many tickets this year, but still we were able to reach a lot of people with it. And I think we did a lot of really good work. And the writers were rewarded for doing their work. So for young writers, we were able to do that, and you usually have those out there at some point afterwards. And I think we still did a great job there. For OGP, we ended up, like I said, we usually do a July 3rd show at the St. James Tavern, and we weren't going to do this year. But then Michelle Hill reached out to me and said, hey, this is the one day I'm going to open. And she didn't really open the bar; she just let us in, and we did a live stream from there. And Colleen and I put our heads together, like, let's have very limited people. So obviously there was no audience; it was only actors, and we had 2 or 3 people per show. And then the other one was another one we got you involved in, was our socially distanced festival, which was an idea I had. And this was when the numbers were going down. And I thought, well, you know what? Even if they keep going down, we're not coming back full bore for a little while. So I thought maybe we can do a socially distanced festival where people are 6 feet apart on stage, or there's something in between them, or they're wearing masks. So all the writers had to write something that way. So I wrote something, you wrote something, and we had 9 other awesome playwrights write great shows. And so we were able to do it. And then we had limited crowds. We did, quote unquote, reopen MadLab, and we ended up doing it really within the governor's guidelines. And for that, we could do that. And we also live streamed, and we've got those up on our OGP YouTube page, Guarantee Chaos, one word. But so it felt a little bit like that theater we're used to. It was kind of cool to have an audience that was laughing back at you, even though they were all in masks, and there were 7 or 8 of them, and they were all spread out. And then, before every show or after every show, we'd wipe everything down. Then we actually have this fogger thing at MadLab that we took through the whole space, and we had to disinfect everything. But it was worth it. And to now bring it back to MadLab. So MadLab's going to do what we're calling a very COVID Christmas, and it's essentially the same as what OGP did, but Christmas themed. So those scripts are going to be selected, I think, this coming weekend. We're still doing submissions as we speak here at the end of September. So that's a cool thing. And then, the other thing is, a lot of, your Black Theater Festival, which I got to be involved in this year, which was great. And, it's funny how many video things I've been able to jump into that I couldn't have done pre-COVID. So, I've been involved in some stuff in Orlando. I did a show in New York for a New York theater. I was able to be in the Black Theater Festival with Derek Livingston, a great actor and director. And speaking of guys who are theater guys who do a lot, Mr. Derek was great, and it was so great getting to do that show with him. And I wouldn't have got that experience if not for COVID, if not for things going the way they went. But I think also, and I've read articles on this too, I don't think that's going away when we get back to quote unquote normal. I think you're still going to see more of those, hey, we have this tool, we can do this now. So, and again, I think that all gets back to, we're telling those stories. And like I said, we can't just sit around.
And I see that what we're going to do, because this is what I've seen, and I'm sure you have too, and other people that I've talked to that produce, what we've seen is this tool has also given us a wider audience. And we're reaching people that we didn't even know we existed, in your own city, and now they know. Well, Stephen, what I would like, I'm asking all of my people to talk about in Let's Talk Theater. One of the things I'm asking everybody to do is to give a word of encouragement to somebody out there that maybe wants to do theater, wants to produce, works that business job, whatever. What encouragement do you have for them to be able to step out there and to do what they want to do?
Yeah, I think, there are so many avenues now, and whether it's, everybody's got a podcast, which, obviously now, but yeah, just in a theater sense, like I said, the theater community here has grown, and like I said, it's gotten more competitive, but there are still so many avenues, and maybe you're not an actor, but maybe you're a writer, and maybe you're not a writer, but you've got a vision, you're a director, or maybe you want to be that tech person. We've got plenty of people who that's their thing, is like, I just want to do tech. And then again, we've had people come in like, I just want to do tech, and then now they're writers and directors and everything else. So I think once you get in there and you start, getting a feel for it, because I started with, I had no training. I didn't get a theater degree or anything, and I just slowly absorbed and sucked up everything I could. So I think if you have that desire to be creative, I think those avenues are out there. I think it's daunting. And especially it can be daunting with walking into any theater and walking, speaking in front of people is still one of the top 10 fears. And, for a lot of us theater people, it's like, I can do that all the time. But, people I work with, we'll be in a meeting and my boss's boss's boss is getting nervous talking to us. I'm like, you're in charge of all this. And I can tell you're nervous because this is a crowd, this is an audience. So, I would encourage, improv classes are great, but I think, even just getting on stage, and if it's a one-line part or whatever, you get your feet wet and you get moving and you get in there. And, a lot of people, we know a lot of people just have a knack for it. I've cast people and been like, so, and then, we're 4 weeks into rehearsal, and then they're like, I don't understand some of these terms you're using with me. And it turns out this is their first show or whatever. And I'm like, I wouldn't have guessed that. Some people just, they have it. They have it. So, I would just encourage, again, I've been beating this drum all the time, but if you're out there and you got a story to tell, there's a place to tell it out there. Whether it's the theater, whether it's theater or some other venue, get out there and tell that story. There's a place out there for it. And not only is there a place for it and people are going to listen to it, there's a community for it too. I mean, and if either you're going to jump in that community or you're going to create that community. And, and that's, and I'll say, one of the things is, and all the great people I've met over the years at MadLab, and there's so many people I've met, and, people have moved on and done all this, but, when I think of all the great people I know, not just Facebook friends or whatever, but, there's so many great talented people I know, or maybe I just know them through theater. There's people I go see in shows all the time, and I'm like, I don't know them personally, but I do know them. So, but it is such a really good community, and calling it a theater community might be limiting. Artistic community, because we have so many people that can do so many different disciplines. So, yeah, if you're out there, tell that story. There's somebody out there is going to want to listen to it, and people like you and me are going to want to help you tell that story. So, yeah.
Well, Stephen, it's great once again to talk theater with you, and I'm sure we'll be talking more theater down the road.
We definitely will be.
Yeah, so I'm just happy to be a part of your theater circle.
We're very blessed.
Yes, and so I am so happy to do that, and so very, very proud of the work that you've done, especially with our youth. And encourage, as a playwright, that's my number one thing. I don't care everything else I do, that's okay. But number one is the writing for me, and that you've done that, and that you guys really have a plan. And COVID didn't stop the plan; it just slowed it down a little bit, and it just gave you all of us, especially with what's going on this year. It's kind of like it's giving all of us a time to sit back, kind of think, work it out, and figure out how we're going to make it better, how we're going to change things, how we're going to put systematic racism back where it belongs, out of our faces, and how we can just be one of love. And the theater, for me, has always been one of those places where we can do it, will do it, and must do it. Because the show, what, Stephen? The show must go on.
That's right.
It must go on. All right.